Morning, everyone. This is Dr. Katherine.Kelly, and I am wondering, are you having a hard time getting through all the soul static that's out there from the human condition? So, how is it that we use ancient wisdom in a modern world? And I kind of have to laugh because when I was setting up the phone so I could start doing this video, a person that works in the suite next door to me pulled up in the parking space right by my window, and I have my windows open because it's such a beautiful morning. But he's sitting in his car with some sort of podcast or talk or something blasting. I can hear it through his closed windows and through my window, and his car is probably 10, 15 feet away from here. Static. Okay, so when I'm talking about static of the human condition, we have tons of it around us all the time. And this is just a pure example of, it's actually very serene in this office. It's very serene until someone pulls up blasting some sort of, couldn't even hear what it was, but some sort of noise that was very distracting. So when we look at how we connect with ourselves, I don't know how many people have a difficult time connecting, but pretty much everybody from what I can understand. I was on a radio show last night. We were pre-taping for a show that's going to air in July, and it was with a nurse who talks about kind of how to manage the spiritual part of healthcare. And we were talking about how it is so hard in the midst of modern healthcare to get yourself grounded as a professional and a practitioner. And, this really relates to everyone. And that's kind of what I did was I expanded the view to help her see that it's not only in healthcare, it's in everywhere that we stand or breathe or are. And so that's why it's so important for us to figure out how do we connect with ancient wisdom so we can use it in a modern world. Now, one of the things I spoke about on the radio show was how to get very quiet with yourself in a very noisy world, how to get quiet with yourself in a short period of time. A lot of people think you have to be a yogi or someone that sits in lotus position for hours in order to get that ancient wisdom. And really, we don't have to do that. If we know how to get there very quickly, we can basically access that wisdom within 10, 20 seconds if we train ourselves to do that. So one way to do that is basically to stop, breathe, and center yourself. And I use audible sighs. I usually encourage people, and people who have taken my workshops know that I teach these audible sighs. But it's one of those things where you take in a deep breath and you let out a sigh, and you put that air out there, and that energy from the sound resonates in the closest part to where our soul resides. Now, granted, there's no physical place in our body that our soul resides, but we get in tune with ourselves. It's almost like tuning that dial when we make that sound of that audible sigh. If we watch and listen from where that sound comes from, we can tune in, we can center ourselves, we can ground ourselves. And what's beautiful about it, when we do that, when we center ourselves in that way, that soul static goes away. So I can't hear the person in the car as long as I am very centered in my own soul. I can't hear the cars going by, or sometimes there's a medical helicopter that passes by because there's a hospital not too far away. So if I am centered, I don't hear those things. I don't hear the things that create distraction and throw me off my mark. So I just want to really encourage you to start to use that ancient wisdom in a very modern world, because it is so much harder these days to get grounded and get centered in our souls. And I was talking last night on the radio show about resetting our souls, because we get so caught up in the human condition that we forget that we have that wisdom within us. We forget that we can use that, and we can retrain ourselves, we can reset ourselves to use that wisdom at any given time. And, I'm the first one to say I've been extraordinarily busy these last several months with getting this new place put together. And I moved in a week ago last Friday, and, there's been a lot of activity just in this past week and a half. But I've tried at times to settle myself and ground myself. And I've had 2 occasions in the last week where I started to almost get a migraine. And that is my body's way of slowing me down and saying, hey, you are not staying in tune. And I learned that decades ago, that when I get my migraines, that's when I'm overdoing it, when I'm pushing too hard. So I slowed down on both of those occasions when I started to get that, so I could listen to that wisdom. And my wisdom told me, you need to chill out. And so that's what I did last night after the radio show. I literally just chilled out, watched some mindless TV, played with the dogs, read a magazine, and really just chilled out. So again, how do we use that ancient wisdom? How do we guide our lives, guide our souls, or I should say, have our souls guide us during those times of high static, high interaction, high noise? And my dog is drinking water in case you hear something in the background. So we have to, speaking of distraction, right? So we have to figure out how we center our souls regardless of where we are in our human condition, because there is that wisdom is with us all the time, and there's that opportunity at any given time for us to just sit with it if we open up to it and tune into it. So, do those audible sighs. You can also ask yourself, what would I regret more? What does my gut tell me? How is it that I would react if I was living through that ancient wisdom? And so it just starts kind of honing everything in so you can align your lives better. So I would love to hear what you do to align your life, what you do to get rid of that soul static, what you do to kind of get all that extraneous noise out of the way so that you can use your ancient wisdom. So I hope you have a wonderful day. I will be back. And as things settle down here at the office, you're going to see more and more from me as far as videos and classes and workshops. And if you're interested, keep tuning in to both Facebook and also my webpage at www.Dr.KatherineT.Kelly.com. Have a great day.